Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Office podcast. I am your host, Asan. Just want to start off by thanking everybody that tuned in to the last episode. Your support is absolutely crazy. A lot of you are enjoying this series, which is amazing to me. Being able to talk about a show that I love and have people respond and show that they love it too means the world to me. So thank you. I was thinking about what topic to do on this podcast today, and the most sort of engaging ones for me, and the ones that I think you guys really like, are the ones where I rank episodes from top 10, top 5, all that kind of stuff. I think if there's a way I can watch an episode and do a commentary over it in the future, I'd love to do that. Obviously, ideally getting the guests on, like the characters from The Office, which would be absolutely amazing, is a thing for the future. But I think right now what I'm getting feedback on and what people are enjoying is the fact that I'm going through the episodes and saying which ones I like and don't like and things like that. And I think people are, kind of responding to that. So I think I should do that again today. So without further ado, I've again scoured the internet looking for the top 10 episodes. This is actually top 25, so I'm going to break this one down. So I'm going to start at 10. I'll work my way down to 1, and then maybe on the next episode I'll do like the last 15. Because I think it'll be very long otherwise if I do top 25. But without further ado, the episode they have here for number 10 is Goodbye Michael, as being, one of the top episodes. Obviously in context it's different because there's 25 episodes here, not 10. But to put this in an episode, I really didn't think anything of this episode. Obviously it was sad that Michael was leaving and he was trying to say goodbye to everyone and everything like that. But did I enjoy this episode? No, not really. I think they could have had a different way to say goodbye to Michael. And it was very out of character for Michael just to leave the way he did. I think they should have had something bigger for him. Seeing as he made such a big deal about everyone and everything, and the fact that they didn't do anything for him, I didn't like that. I think they could have definitely done the episode a little bit differently there. Whether that's in a top 25, nah, I don't think so. Even in a top, even top 50, I don't think it's there. It's not an episode that I really enjoyed. The next one on this list is Goodbye Toby. This is the one where Toby announces that he is going to Costa Rica to travel, I think. And this is the one where they get locked in the office after Jim forgets to tell the cleaners or the security guard to keep the building open. Again, I don't know. This was a bit of a random episode. It was a bit of a weird one. I don't think I enjoyed it. It was a strange one. Again, it felt like a filler episode. Again, Toby leaving, it could have been done in a different kind of way. Obviously, the introduction to Holly is after this, but I don't know if I like this episode. It was, again, very, very strange. Toby acted in a really creepy way towards Pam before he left, and then he scaled the fence to get out of there before things got weird. But nah, not really an episode that I enjoyed, if I'm honest. The next episode on this list, though, The Injury, the one where Michael Scott burns his foot on a George Foreman grill. This has to be one of the funniest episodes I have ever seen. This, straight off the bat, is hilarious. The way he calls the office to see if anyone's there to help him, the way he comes in on crutches, the way he's got that bubble wrap around his foot, it's an outrageous episode. And when he calls in the guy that's in a wheelchair and tries to compare himself to that guy, it's got to be one of the funniest kind of segments of the show. And then finding out that Dwight has a concussion and him and Pam, become friends, kind of. It was a really nice episode. I really enjoyed it. And I think it was class A comedy, especially with Michael trying to compare himself to someone in a wheelchair, which was absolutely outrageous. I don't think you'd get away with something like that in a show today. But it was one of the funniest episodes I've ever seen, for sure. Is it top in the top 10? Yeah, definitely. I really, really enjoyed it. The next one on this list we have is safety training. This is where Michael tries to not fake his own death, but like he gets up on the building and is pretending to jump off, and he has a bouncy castle there, and he doesn't actually realize that he will hurt himself if he jumps off this building. I did like this episode a lot. I think this is the one where I think Michael ended up injuring Daryl, so they had to do some kind of safety training. And one of the funniest funniest segments or lines of this episode is when Toby's explaining that you should take 10 minutes every hour to, get away from your screen and stretch your legs and all that. And Michael assumes that he means 10 minutes for every single thing, which is 30 minutes. So he mentions 3 things, 30 minutes every hour. And then Daryl tries to explain to him he means, take that break at the same time. So it's 10 minutes every hour rather than 30 minutes every hour. And I think just that little nuance between Daryl and Michael really made me laugh. It was one of the funniest lines in that whole show, or that whole episode, sorry. And just the way Michael is trying to prove that working in the office isn't boring. And I think when he talks about using the baler as well, and he, Daryl's telling him, under no circumstances do you use the baler, and Michael is trying to come up with different reasons to use the baler, like, what if, and Daryl's like, no, there's no circumstance or situation where you would use the baler in any way, shape, or form, and Michael's still trying to use the baler, which is, yeah, I really enjoyed that elements of that episode for sure. Top 10, probably not top 10, I'd say it's probably my top 20. I think there's a lot of episodes in my top 10 that would definitely get the vote over that. The next one on the list is The Convict, where Michael finds out that Martin Nash, who is just joined them from the Stanford branch, is actually an ex-con. And Michael, I actually watched this episode the other day, and Michael pretends to be Prison Mike, and he tries to scare him straight with his little talk. And he starts talking about dementors and all that sort of stuff. And when Jim asks him, where did you learn all of this, Prison Mike? He goes, on TV. And then Jim's like, well, so not in prison. And like, it's just the quickness of Jim is hilarious. Like the timing is absolutely spot on. But that's what I mean about this whole show. This whole show, you can't imitate it. Like, it really annoyed me when they tried to imitate the UK one. In the pilot, because they were trying too hard, and I feel like had they gone down that route, they wouldn't have got to where they are today. They wouldn't have been as big as they got. Like, the UK one was funny, it was okay, but you could tell, like, it didn't have much left. But this show, I'm telling you, is genius, and that's because they went down their own route and decided to do something different. And had they not done that, yeah, it wouldn't have worked. The next episode on here is the Diwali episode, where Michael says some outrageous stuff, and just the episode in general. It's an okay episode. It's probably not top 10 for me, but it's a funny episode. It's okay. Like, Michael proposes to Carol, which is the most awkward thing ever. He tells her it's a fancy dress party, so she comes as a cheerleader. And obviously, Michael gets away with it because he's wearing a suit and he has his little, his clone on his shoulder, but he can easily take that off and blend in. But yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't find this episode very funny. It was okay. Even the narrative of like Jim, Andy, and Karen, being in Stanford and like, working at night and all that sort. Like, yeah, it just wasn't, it wasn't really for me. It was an okay episode. It was funny, but it wasn't really for me. I think it could have definitely been a little bit better. Episode 4 on this list is The Job. And that's the one where Dwight is recruiting for an assistant regional manager. Michael thinks that he's got the job in corporate. He goes up there to interview for it and is convinced he's got it in the bag, when actually that isn't the case. It actually transpires that the job he's taken is actually Jan's job, and chaos ensues, and he comes to his senses. Well, actually, David Wallace comes to his senses and says, "You can't have the job." Jim and Karen also apply for the job. They don't get it, and then obviously Ryan eventually gets the job. But this episode is the one where literally Dwight is looking for a number 2 in the office, and he's painting Michael's office. He's talking about Shroot Bucks and all that madness. This was a funny episode for me, simply because of the interactions between Jan and David Wallace when she finds out that she's being replaced, and when Michael finds out he's replacing Jan. I think it's one of the funniest sort of bits of the episode. Top 10 for me, for sure. I think this is a very, very good episode, and I really enjoyed it. Number 3 on the list is Dinner Party. I think I've mentioned Dinner Party before on this podcast. Dinner Party is one of my favourite episodes. Any episode that has the cast out of the office, I really, really enjoy. Apart from the episode where Andy is pretending to be homeless and a cleaner and everything else. And I think that's in season 9 when he comes back in as manager of the Scranton branch when David Wallace buys Dunder Mifflin again. That was the only episode I didn't really like, where they were out of the office. That whole episode was a bit of a mess. But this is one of my favourite ones where they're not in the office for the majority of the episode. Michael with his little pushing back his TV into the wall when it's on the bracket. The whole awkward interaction between Jan and Michael. Jan smashing his TV with a Dundee. Just overall a very, very funny episode. Dwight bringing his babysitter as his date for the dinner party. I don't know. I think there's different elements of these episodes that make them amazing, and I can't quite put my finger on this episode, but it was just a flawless episode, and this for me is probably definitely top 5 episodes of all time. I really, really enjoyed this episode. Number 2 on here is Dundies, which is season 2, episode 1, where I think it's the first Dundee. I think we only see 2 Dundies in this whole show. And the first one where Pam wins a Dundee, and where Michael's getting heckled. I don't know if this was a funny episode. It just wasn't for me. It just, again, this is another episode where, they're not in the office, and I didn't really like, and this was just an awkward episode. I think the other Dundies was funnier when Will Ferrell came in as D'Angelo Vickers. That was a really, really funny episode. Just his awkwardness, and then having to move it back to the office, and even having that little bit where D'Angelo Vickers is in the show for a couple episodes. That was good. I like that. But this Dundies was weird. I didn't enjoy it. Definitely not probably not even top 50 episodes for me. Like, I really didn't enjoy it. It wasn't for me. It'd be like one of the worst episodes I saw, I think. I'm just trying to think if there was any key details of the show that I enjoyed, but I don't think there really was. And number 1 on this list, surprisingly, is Casino Night. Again, I've mentioned this before in another podcast. I didn't really enjoy this episode. It wasn't really the one. Like, it's definitely not number 1. I think I probably will do, a dissect of number 1 episode for me of all time in The Office. I still don't know what it is. I just love, the series as a whole so much. But Casino Night was a funny one. Jim declaring his love for Pam. And again, the funniest part of the episode was when Kevin loses his money, when he's, some poker pro. He's telling everyone that he won the Texas Hold'em tournament, whatever it was, whatever in Vegas and all of that madness, and then just loses his money and just says he's terrible. That was like the funniest part of the episode. And obviously the awkwardness between Jan and Carol being there together, that was funny. But overall, it wasn't a great episode. It just wasn't really for me. And the fact that they're highlighting that, Jim and Pam, finally get to know what they feel about one another. Yeah, that doesn't appeal to me, man. It really didn't. It's one of the probably weakest storylines in the whole series. Like, I know people have been atting me on TikTok about this, about me saying this is a weak storyline and that she shouldn't be in the show. But for real, if you really think about it, and if you really took out some characters, you could take out a lot of characters from the show, and the show would be absolutely fine. But unfortunately, one of the main characters you could take out of the show is Pam, and the show would be fine. But again, I digress. This is just my beef with Pam. It's not personal. I just don't see why she was in the show, and the character. Yeah, I just didn't like her. But that's definitely not number one for me. It's not even top 50 for me. But anyways, that is the episode for today. Thank you to everyone that has watched and listened all the way through. I really appreciate your support. As I said, I really enjoy doing these podcasts. This is a show I watch every single day, and to be able to talk about it and just waffle on and just give you my opinion is amazing to me. As I said, in the future, I'd love to have guests on just to talk about this show, which is amazing. It's a timeless show. I started watching it properly in 2010. We are now in 2023, so like 13 years on, I'm still watching this show religiously. I don't think I've missed. No, that's a lie. I've gone kind of days where I haven't watched an episode, but the majority of the last 13 years, I've been watching an episode a day at least. You know, whether that's like eating dinner and quickly watching an episode, or like ironing my clothes and watching an episode, like, you know, in the kitchen waiting for food to be cooked in the oven. Like, I'll watch an episode. Like, I watch it every day. And like the one today that I watched was the one where Dwight leaves because he doesn't want anyone to know that he helped out Angela by taking the paperwork to corporate, and Andy's being all snaky. Like, that episode I literally just watched before I jumped on here. So I'm trying to figure out what's the best route to go, whether I talk about episodes that I've seen today and do the likes and dislikes and the plots and everything else. But I'm trying to figure that out. So leave that with me. Be patient with me. This is a new podcast, new concept. I don't think I've seen anything else like this about other shows either, especially not this in-depth and this opinionated. And please don't take my opinions seriously. These are just my opinions. Like, people obviously love Pam. That's absolutely fine. People love all the different kinds of characters and all different kinds of episodes. That's absolutely fine. This is just one guy's opinion. But I really appreciate you kicking it with me and watching and listening to these episodes. But as I said, that is the episode today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe and share. And if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, there should be like a star option somewhere to star how much you like this podcast. Do that for me. That will really help me out. Peace and love. Take care. Catch you in the next episode.